Yeah, but you said blind faith.
No,
And I said, well,
no. I said your faith is blind because you believe. Hang on, you reliable, despite the fact that there's no evidence for the manuscripts back to the copies. We don't have that.
Argument you're bringing now.
Yeah, it is.
The belief in a being that's not seen, that's not been seen, right?
God,
we both believe in someone who hasn't been seen.
God is not an object. God is not an. Let me explain. God is not an object in the universe that we can see and touch and describe. He is way above and beyond the universe. But we see signs of his existence everywhere in the design of the universe, in the exquisite fine-tuning of the laws of physics, in the design of the fantastic engineering of a tree, the way the water goes. Even the existence of the universe itself requires a creator. So there's lots of evidence for that. And it's part of our fitra, our natural disposition to believe as well.
To believe in something.
But that's not the same thing as saying, I just believe the Bible because I have blind faith, even though I have no original copies of any of the New Testament texts. And the earliest complete New Testament is 400 years after AD 0, the Codex Sinaiticus. That's different order. That's not faith in the universe. That is blind faith.
You're bringing me an evidential argument.
Yeah, of course.
And that's not the reason why you're Muslim. You're not a Muslim.
I am.
Because
you don't know why I'm Muslim.
Of evidential argument.
Yeah.
You're Muslim because of the transcendental argument, which is belief
in
a being.
I'm a Muslim because I believe that there is one God, Allah, and that Muhammad, upon him peace, is a messenger of God. That's why I'm a Muslim. I believe those two things to be absolutely true.
You haven't seen God though, yet you believe.
I don't need to have seen him to believe. Because God is not an object. You see, I'm a creature in this space-time continuum. All I can see are trees, you, and everything else. God is not an object in our universe. He transcends the universe, as you've already said. So it's not right. It's not right to ask me, have I seen God like I've seen you? It doesn't work like that. But the evidence of God's existence as a transcendent creator is all around us, and that I deduce he exists. It's different.
That's a philosophical
God's
argument.
not like us.
That's a philosophical
it
argument
is.
because of cause and effect.
Contingency, actually. It's technically called contingency.
Because there is beings, because there is creation, that means therefore there's a creator.
That's not quite an
argument.
As we see all around, designer must have will, intelligence, consciousness on an unbelievable scale, who created all this. So we can deduce the characteristics of God, attributes of God himself, that he is immensely amazing in that he can create this universe, that he and so on. One can go so far. Revelation takes us a lot further, of course, about. So, and other things like the unseen. We don't know about, for example, angels and the afterlife, except that is revealed to us.
What I'm trying to say is, you believe in these things, right? Science can't prove these things.
No.
Because they're beyond human testing.
It's beyond science.
And that's what I'm saying, they're transcendental.
Yeah,
so
in that sense.
My thing to you is that we have an innate
disposition?
Yeah, disposition. An innate feeling to believe in something, even though we haven't seen it.
Exactly.
And my point to you is that we're in the same boat.
Oh, in that sense, yeah, I think we are. But when it comes, what triggered this whole discussion off was your belief the Bible is reliable, even though we haven't.
I wasn't talking about the Bible. I was talking about.
We were talking about manuscripts, weren't we?
No, I was talking about faith. Faith in the.
Yeah. Reliable, without any evidence that it goes back to the time of Jesus.
And you said something about the manuscript. You brought up this manuscript.
Yeah.
I'm not evidentialist. I'm not a Christian because of evidence.
But shouldn't you have evidence for your? Shouldn't you have evidence for your belief?
No, not necessarily.
Why not?
Because a God, a creator, shouldn't have to prove himself.
Of course.
Evidence that he's.
I don't believe God has to prove anything to me.
Right, exactly.
But I do believe there's evidence for his existence.
Sorry?
He doesn't have to prove anything to me, of course, but there is evidence that he exists.
How do you prove the evidence of somebody who's unseen?
I've already explained. The universe is exquisitely designed in a most astonishing way. It didn't come about by chance. It's clearly we're meant to be here in some way. This implies purpose, design, intelligence, and so on. All these are attributes of a phenomenal transcendent being whom we call God. Now, it's a mistake to think that we, as creatures on this planet, can see God as if he was an object in this universe. I keep on saying this point. We can't reasonably expect to see that.
What you're saying to me is that because there are creations and there are things, therefore, that's a logical argument, which comes down to philosophy. But that's not a being. So
coming back to, do you expect me like to see God like I see you, and therefore I now know? No, that's not what I mean.
You're using a logical argument, and I'm coming to a conclusion.
I'm just observing and deducing that behind the universe, beyond, there must be a creator. Philosophical argument. It's the argument contingency.
It can be a scientific model.
It's not a science argument.
Can be used as a scientific argument.
It's not really. It's not a syllogism. And then a conclusion. It's not a syllogism. What it is a
syllogism,
which is an argument in logic. It's not
logic from the self.
It's a particular logical structure where you have
I think therefore I am. Knowledge comes from ourselves.
Yeah, that's not. Okay, but my argument is not a syllogism.
Do you know he's begging the question?
It is the sense that the universe is clearly designed, therefore there's a designer who is infinitely transcendent of the universe. He's not part of the universe, he's not in the universe, it's not panentheism or deism, he's utterly transcendent, who creates and sustains the universe in power. And I think the evidence for that is overwhelming. We see it in every object around us, from trees, within ourselves, in the grass, rocks. Whatever you see, it all cries out, this is design and has purpose. So therefore I say there is a designer. It's not.
What you're saying, like I said, we keep going back and forth. You're looking at creation and...
Do you agree? Do you agree with that conclusion?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Agree.
Intricately,
exquisitely designed.
It didn't just pop up by itself.
Exactly.
And therefore, intelligent creator.
Yeah.
That says there's an intelligent being.
Yeah.
But then that's different from you actually looking at a being in the spiritual.
I can't see God in this life with my eyes.
Right, and
maybe in the next life, actually, one can,
with
with a different kind of body, or perhaps.
Yeah.
Well, I don't believe he exists. I know he exists.
Intelligent design.
I know he exists. There's a difference between belief in the Christian sense.
Whether you believe or
Let me clarify this. Often when Christians say I believe in something, they think, well, I don't really have any evidence. So can I just finish what I'm saying? Okay. I was trying to explain.
You don't just believe because of intelligent design. You believe because there's an innate feeling.
The fitra.
Yeah, right.
But,
so
as I was saying, if I come back to say, when Christians say they believe that, I believe in X, they often mean, well, there's not really any evidence to it. I just believe it. And that's not, when I say I believe in God, I don't believe in God in that sense at all.
I'm saying that's the crux of
yeah. I'm not saying I believe in God like that at all. I'm saying I know God exists.
Okay, all right. And so same thing.
For the same reason, because his existence is axiomatic, it's self-evident, it's obvious. It's obvious. No, I said axiomatic. Axiomatic, which means self-evident. It's a self-evident truth. So it's not like a blind faith.
Right. Yeah, that's fine.
It is obvious that God exists.
Yeah. So but that's we actually agree.
Absolutely.
It's something that's innate in us.
Exactly.
We all wired to believe.
Exactly.
So we don't just believe on the creation.
Exactly.
We don't just look at creation and make an analysis and say, like a creator, because of creation, therefore creator. There's something else that's pushing us to believe in something, and that is faith. Like I said, Hebrews 11:1, the evidence of all things hoped for, the evidence unseen. So
well, I'm not endorsing Hebrews,
we're in the same boat.
Yeah, maybe in terms of God's existence. Yeah. But I think when it comes to the specifics of the Bible and so on, I think that's a very different problem. And I think it's not obvious that the Bible is reliable or historically accurate in many of its claims.
Okay, that's fine. But when it comes down to we're going on faith, is that what has been recovered is reliable.
What would you mean? What's that?
Through manuscripts or whatever.
Oh no,
parchments.
No. I find that the historians often point out that the Gospels are historically unreliable in many of its statements. Right. Unreliable, and these are usually Christian scholars that say this. And give examples if you.
Okay.
Would you like me to give you examples?
Can I just make this point?
Okay.
Does God need manuscripts to speak to you?
Well, of course not, but I'm not sure what has God got to do with those manuscripts?
But then why are we talking about manuscripts when we have an innate belief anyway? So we can believe in God without manuscripts. So it's kind of irrelevant to go.
No, it's not.
To go down that evidential argument when we both believe transcendentally.
Because there's a difference between our common agreement, which is great, that God obviously does exist.
Right.
But when it comes to other beliefs, like, for example, are the Gospels historically reliable? And that's a different subject entirely than I think Christian scholars that I've read anyway, many of them would say there are very unhistorical and unreliable stories in the Gospels. And to do with historical reasons. And textual reasons.
Which is evidential argument.
Well, I know you like that. I know you like that phrase a lot, but that's not really my phrase.
I can just say I believe in what they.
Well, let me give an example of a manuscript. So, in the earliest Gospel, the Gospel of Mark, we have some resurrection appearances of Jesus. But scholars have discovered that these resurrection appearances were added by scribes much later than the Gospel of Mark. How do we know that? Because we have today we have very early manuscripts like the Codex Sinaiticus, which do not contain these stories. They were added in the 2nd century.
I've read about the Sinaiticus and the Sinaiticus.
They don't have those resurrection appearances. They're missing.
I don't actually trust those codexes. I actually believe those to be corrupt.
Okay.
They were written by corrupt people.
Well, who wrote the Codex Sinaiticus?
It was written by members of the Alexandrian sect.
What Alexandrian sect?
The Alexandrians.
Okay, who actually wrote the Codex out then? Who commissioned it?
Long story short, it was written by a group of people and they were corrupt. They were actually members of a cult.
No one actually knows who commissioned it and wrote it.
No,
if you go to the British Library and
no one knows who wrote the Sinaiticus.
No one knows who wrote it and commissioned it. People can guess. Some people say Emperor Constantine because it was around that period. One of a whole set of Bibles that he allegedly commissioned, maybe, but we don't know. If you ask the experts at the British Library, when you look at the exhibition, you can go there tomorrow morning. You can look at and see the exhibition. They don't know who wrote it. They don't know who commissioned it, but they do date it because you can date it by carbon dating and handwriting styles and so on.
Yeah,
they date it to the middle of the 4th century. But my point is, in the early church before that, we now know from the science of textual criticism that these resurrection appearances of Mark didn't exist.
I don't go through textual criticism.
That's fine.
Because there are many critics like Westcott and Holt. They made up their own.
These are 19th century Cambridge scholars.
They made up their own brand of textual criticism.
Yeah, but now in the 21st century.
To make their translations of the Bible seem more superior.
But that was 200 years ago. I'm talking about in 2024. That was
Westcott and Holt.
Westcott both lived in the Victorian Christians living in Cambridge and Oxford.
But when
that was a long time ago.
But when they lived, they made up, like I said.
Well, maybe. But today's scholars are not Westcott and Holt. That's Westcott College, Cambridge, is actually named after Westcott at Cambridge University. I've been there.
Yeah. But like I said before, this is an irrelevant argument because I'm not an evidentialist.
Well, what do you mean by evidentialist? You don't believe in evidence?
Going on evidence. I have faith that what I've read is true.
Blind faith.
No, you said before it wasn't blind faith, it was faith.
Well, no, but if you don't require evidence, you just believe it anyway. That's blind faith, isn't it?
I tend to say it's just faith.
I say it's blind faith. Different kinds of faith. You see, if I believe something and I have no evidence for it at all, that's blind because there's no reason why I should believe. There's no rational reason why I should believe that. There's no evidence.
But I just said to you, can God speak to you without manuscripts? And you said, yeah, we both agreed. And we both agreed that's why we believe in
yes, but I haven't claimed to believe anything without evidence.
No, but we just said, remember I said...
There is evidence for my beliefs, which is based on the Quran, for example.
You said that you believed in a higher power, which you haven't seen. One, because of creation.
Yeah, as evidence. As evidence.
I call it revelation.
Okay.
And
Fine.
you said because of an innate capacity, like you said, what we were born with, to believe in the unseen.
Okay.
And that is the crux of our belief. It's not about evidential.
No, but you see, we move beyond that subject. So hang on, can I explain? I agree with you about the existence of God, but there are other subjects, other doctrines of belief that you have.
I can just brush that aside and say,
can you just let me finish?
Yeah.
Other than the existence of God, but there's plenty of evidence, there are other specific Christian doctrines that are not that belief in God, that have no evidence for, that you believe them blindly because you're a Christian. I get that impression. But Islamically, we're not allowed just to have blind faith with no reason at all. For example, let me give an example. Let me give an example. The example, the unseen, the afterlife, the existence of the day of resurrection and the day of judgment. That's what I'm coming to. The day of judgment and so on. I've not seen those things.
Right,
I have no physical.
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to quick point. And then
Am I taking too long to talk? Because you're finding me a bit slow, are you?
I just want to make a quick point and then quick introduction.
I'd like to finish my point, if that's all right. So, why do I believe these things? What evidence do I have? God's own word, which is the Quran. And other scriptures also mention this, but the Quran is the last revelation of God, uncorrupted, pure, unchanged, unlike the Bible, which has been changed. And I've given you an example, but you're not perhaps too comfortable with that. So that's why I believe on the testimony of the ultimate authority possible, which is God himself. That's why there is evidence for it. The evidence is God, who is reliable. When the beliefs some of the beliefs you have are not based on any evidence. They're just based on your believing in them.
That's what we both agreed
And
on.
I'm saying that Islamically that's not good enough. We require evidence for everything we believe.
Yeah, but what you're suggesting to me is a framework, a protocol of believing something, but which you don't hold to ultimately. We keep going back and forward.
I do hold to it ultimately. The ultimate authority is God and his teaching.
You just said we just keep going. We just said over and over again. We have an innate capacity to believe in something that we haven't seen.
No, I've changed the subject. I'm talking about something else now. I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about a specific.
I'm saying you're not an evidentialist.
I am an evidence because the evidence comes from God.
But have you seen God?
I don't have to have seen him to read his word. The Bible, the Quran, the Quran is not God. I don't have to see God to believe in the Quran. The Quran is his speech.
Can God be scientifically proven?
That's a category mistake to ask that question. Because God is not.
No, he can't be scientifically proven.
Let me explain why. Because God is not an object within the universe that we can measure scientifically. It's a category error to ask that question. It's a category mistake. God massively transcends all the universe. He is behind it, beyond it. He controls and brings it into being. To ask us to use science which operates within our material realm to talk about the transcendent God who is not material is simply an error. It's a mistake.
That's why we don't use it.
So we can't use science to prove or disprove God.
Right. So then we have to go on faith. What can we do then?
Well, we've already been down that road. But I was talking about specific Christian beliefs which you have, which are not apparently based on any evidence. And I'm saying we should not have beliefs based on no evidence.
But it doesn't matter to me though.
Fine.
Because, like I said,
because you could be, but you see, the danger then is you're believing stuff that isn't true because just on your whim and your wish.
Is God not true?
No. Your beliefs without evidence could just be illusory, couldn't they? They could be illusory.
Yeah, but we both agree that God is true.
Yeah. So if you have no evidence of beliefs, you could just be believing anything that's not true. But if I have evidence for my beliefs, then at least then I can point to something objective beyond my own wishes and say, I believe in the day of judgment because God has said that in the Gospels, which he has. Jesus, as a prophet of God, has spoken about the day of judgment. Muhammad, peace be upon them both, have also spoken. That's evidence. God has spoken to us, the humankind. But if you just have beliefs because you just have beliefs, you could be misled and you wouldn't even know because you don't have any evidence. That's the problem I have.
But when you put all your eggs in those baskets, it's you're like I said, science can't prove these things that we believe.
Science is irrelevant. Science is irrelevant. Science is irrelevant for what we're talking about. Science can't speak to these metaphysical realities. Science is only competent within the material realm. But I'm not speaking about the material realm. I'm speaking about the transcendent God.
Evidence is material.
No, there's non-material evidence. There's spiritual evidence,
which is special revelation which God has given us.
Yeah, exactly. So that's not. And science has nothing to say about that. It can't speak to that. because it's
Yeah,
to do
and
with
I'm not
quantity
using,
and...
I'm not using science as my atomic bomb.
Right, but you're
I'm
mentioning
using faith
science.
as my atomic bomb.
Yeah, but you keep on mentioning science as if that's relevant to
No,
our
that's what
metaphysics.
you're going on. That's what I say. You're going on science.
No,
you're
I'm
going
not.
on physical things that can be, which is
Not when it comes to revelation. It's nothing to do with science. It's to do with God's
right, but
own.
You're saying
truth.
something about you speaking about parchments, carbon dating. That's science.
What? Because I'm saying that the Gospels, which you think are reliable, we don't have the original copies, and Christian scholars today think they are corrupted. They're corrupted, so they're not reliable as evidence.
Yeah,
That's
and
my
the crux
problem.
of my argument is I have faith that whatever they brought me is true.
Based on what?
Based on faith.
Yeah, but this is blind faith. This is blind faith.
You keep saying blind faith, but
because you have no evidence for it. You see, I have evidence that the New Testament is corrupt. You have blind faith that it's not. So how do we weigh up this equation? Who is right? I can give you lots of examples and evidences of textual corruption in the Bible. I can give you a dozen examples from memory. And you say, none of that matters. It's not carbon dating. None of this matters because I have blind faith. I mean, who has the better argument here?
We both believe in the same things.
No, we don't. We don't believe in the same things.
You're trying to make an error. You're trying to say that my religion is better than your religion.
No, I'm saying no. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that your blind faith in texts is, according to your own scholars, misplaced. That they say there's corruption in the Bible. Even the Bible says it's corrupt. In Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8, Jeremiah the prophet himself, you can Google it now if you want, he talks about the lying pens of the scribes, the Jewish scribes, who had changed the Torah. It actually says that in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 8, verse 8. Google it now or look it up. So even the Bible admits the Bible has been corrupted. I'm not making that up. If you look it up, look it up.
That's an opinion of men that you've listened to.
This is what Jeremiah says in the Bible.
Jeremiah?
Look it up. No, I'm serious. Keep on saying this. Did you have a copy of the Bible now?
Because I wasn't really listening.
You weren't listening to me.
Because you was going over the same.
Why am I bothering?
Talking about the Bible now. I know the Bible very well. Jeremiah says the Bible's been corrupted.
Well, you must. If you know the Bible well, you'd know that then.
No, I think you're clutching at straws. Maybe.
I'm not. I'm deadly serious.
Jeremiah,
look it up.
The prophet said that the Bible's been corrupted.
Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8. Look it up now. Look it up now. He talks about the lying pen of the scribes who have corrupted the Torah. He says that. Jeremiah 8:8. I'll wait while you look it up. You can read it out.
Jeremiah 8.
Chapter 8, verse 8. Yeah. Do you want to read it out?
What version, by the way?
Well, a modern version would be nice, rather than, unless you can read the Greek. I'm not fussy, but just a modern version.
I'll go with the King James.
No, I'm talking about modern versions because King James is a really bad translation.
Again, this is just a false narrative because.
No, it's not a false narrative.
The KJV's got a lot of stick, but it's the most accurate.
It's not. It's not.
One thing I know about is the translations. When you look at the other translations,
okay, I will look at the. I will give you now modern translation. Jeremiah 8:8.
One second, the Bible it says in Deuteronomy 4:2, "You shall not add or take from the word." So
let me come back to Jeremiah 8:8. Let me quote now Jeremiah 8:8.
No, because I want to just point by point. I don't want to.
Can we just read out Jeremiah before you talk about other verses?
Because you made a claim about the translations. You said something about the KJV.
Yeah, can I address that in a minute because that's
a.
Let's just do this first, and then we'll talk about why the King James version is a dreadful translation. Now, the New International Version, which is the most popular English translation amongst evangelicals, says, well, whatever, is a very popular. Will you just let me read the verse, please? And then we'll read other verses of the same verse in different translations. This is Jeremiah. How can you say we are wise, for we have the law of the law? This is the Torah, when actually the lying pen of the scribes has handled it falsely.
But my version doesn't say that.
Well, fine. And now another translation, the NRSV, which is the gold standard for academic use in England. Don't say no, let me read it. How can you say we are wise? And the law of the Lord is with us. This is the claim. When in fact the false pen of the scribes has made it into a lie. It's textually corrupted.
KJV doesn't say lie at all.
Well, version has made it a lie. Twisted it. Here we are. This is the New Living Translation, a very popular. How can you say we are wise because we have the word of the Lord, when your teachers have twisted it by writing lies.
Number one, I don't go by those
Wow.
versions, 'cause those versions
Wow.
are corrupt. I
How
go by the
many?
King
I'm
James
going through
version.
all these
That's
versions.
irrelevant to me.
Okay,
I don't
the
trust
New
those.
Century
I don't go by
Version.
those versions.
You keep saying we are wise because we have the Torah, but actually, those who explain the scriptures have written lies with their
You
pens.
can go for as many versions as you
Another
want,
one, the false
but I
pen of
don't
the
go-
scribes
I don't go
have
by
wrought
those versions.
falsely, have made it with falsehood. This is all talking about the textual corruption of the Torah.
No, from
the
the corrupt
pens have
versions.
not written what is true,
From the corrupt versions.
so have made it into a lie. Let me explain to you why the King James Version is the worst of all modern translations.
Okay, well, my version, which
Well, what does
doesn't
your version
lie,
say?
It says, how do we say we are wise and the law of the Lord with us?
Yes.
No certainty, in vain made he it. The pen of the scribes is in vain.
Yeah, it's not very good English. We need modern English. This is 400 years
16th century.
ancient English. We need
Yeah, but
we
that's
need
the thing,
modern
it's more-
English. So
it's
if you
more-
read modern
it's more offensive.
translations,
I don't know, but they're user friendly, and what they are. Like
the NRSV is not
the
user friendly.
NIV is dynamic equivalence, phrase for phrase.
Yeah, it's not-
And
it's
what
not
they've done
illiterate-
is they've
no,
butchered-
okay.
they've
The
butchered
NRSV,
versions.
do you know about the New
It's not a
Revised
literal
Standard Version?
translation, so what they've done is phrase for phrase.
Is your argument that all modern translations are unreliable? Is this your argument?
Yeah, most of them, yeah.
You read Hebrew and Greek, do you?
King James Version.
You read Greek and Hebrew, do
I
you?
have the Hebrew translation.
No, can you read Greek and Hebrew?
I can't read it, no, but
Ah,
I
I
don't
see.
need to.
So you can't actually personally tell whether or not these are reliable. So how
They're
do you?
not-
Why do
because-
you?
because
Why do you
they've-
think they're
because they've
unreliable
taken-
if you can't read the
because
languages
they've taken
yourself?
verses out. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
They've taken verses out.
Such
they've
as?
taken paragraphs out.
Because there's so much corruption.
Numbers.
They've taken out the Trinity verse
But
in 1 John 5:7. In your King James version,
it's the only
it has
verse-
the
it's the
Trinity
only version
version.
that has
Hang on a second.
verse-
But that's
the
not in
common
any
law-
early
common law.
manuscripts. It's not in any. It's
No,
been
it's in the
taken out.
earlier manuscripts.
No, it's not in any early
And the new
manuscripts.
versions have taken it out.
Okay. Is it in the Codex Sinaiticus? No.
I don't
Is it in the
trust
Codex?
I don't trust
I
the
don't care if
Codex.
you trust it or not. You see,
I'm telling you what
the
I do.
experts say this is the earliest.
They're not experts.
You know,
That's very vain to say.
okay,
It's vain
the
to say-
Codex Vaticanus, if you look at all the
Corrupt,
early manuscripts, you will not find that verse in it. Why is that?
Yeah, because they've taken it out because of.
What's the earliest verse?
I believe
What's the
because-
earliest manuscript that has the passage in it then?
There were 8 manuscripts, 8 early manuscripts.
Yeah,
that
what's the
had
date? What's
had
the date? What's
common
the
law
earliest date of the earliest manuscripts that has the 1 John 5:7 in it?
within the 1st century.
First century.
Yeah.
We don't have any manuscripts from the first century. We have nothing from the first century at all.
No, but
Nothing.
that doesn't mean they didn't exist.
No,
They just don't have them.
I asked you what the earliest manuscripts were with 1 John 5:7. You refer to a century where there are no manuscripts at
I
all.
don't know exactly how old
Okay, I think
they
that
are,
this shows that
but-
you don't really know about the subject. To be fine, and be honest, you don't really know
That's not
about
the crux
it.
of my belief, though.
Okay.
I said I'm not an
Okay.
evidentialist.
I
And
know.
like I said,
I
one thing I do know
am.
about
I
is
am.
the translations, and the
But you say you're not.
is corrupt.
You say you're not an evidentialist, but you're dealing in evidences now. Your very argument is premised on evidences. But when I asked you for evidence, you said the first century.
Because I believe
but there are
in the
no
translations.
manuscripts in the first century.
I have faith in the King James Bible,
Okay.
which
It's blind faith. Blind faith.
It's faith, like we both had.
Because all the earlier manuscripts do not have the Trinity verse in it. And do you know what's interesting? The early fathers.
No, the King James.
Let me
the King
just
James
finish.
Is the earlier?
Okay.
Has the early
Let me just finish.
manuscripts.
It's not just that the early manuscripts don't have the Trinity verse in. It's not just that. It's also the early fathers.
No, the later manuscripts
Dude,
don't have the.
dude,
don't
dude,
have
dude.
the, no,
You're
just
interrupting
correcting
me.
quickly.
No, don't correct me while I'm
No,
talking.
because you're saying something that's wrong. Though.
You don't really let me finish. Just indulge me for 1 minute instead of correcting me, all right?
No, this is a quick correction because you said that the
No,
early,
let me fin- can you let
the
me finish?
early
Right, let me finish.
manuscript- I'm
Can
saying
you-
that the early manuscripts.
I know you
have
disagree with me.
Have the common Yohammer.
Can you
That's
do-
what I'm saying.
right, can you, will
The
you
early
will you afford me the
manuscript,
dignity
which
of
is the-
not
which is the
interrupt?
KJV.
Will you just let me speak uninterrupted for 30 seconds? Will you do that or not? Or you're just not going to let me? You're going to interrupt me?
No, but the thing is, Muslims.
You see, Muslims are like that. Yeah.
No, what they do
You're
is
now
they-
going to make
they
a
say-
racist, Islamophobic
No,
comment.
what they say you're saying something
Okay.
wrong, so I'm going to interrupt.
Okay, I'm not Muslims in
And to
general.
be fair,
I'm just
I haven't done it
me.
through the
All
whole
right.
debate.
Okay.
I've only done it just now.
Okay. Will you let me finish? Right. I'm going to just be patient for 30 seconds and don't interrupt. Right. No, there is no early manuscript, Greek manuscript of the New Testament that has 1 John 5:7 in it. Secondly, and as importantly, no early father, no theologian or bishop or writer in the early church ever quoted this verse or referred to it in their commentaries about 1 John. It is simply unknown in the ancient world. No one knew about it. Not only was it not in the manuscripts, but no one, Irenaeus didn't know about it, Augustine didn't know about it, Justin Martyr didn't know about it, Tertullian didn't know about it, Chrysostom. I could go through a dozen or more early prominent Christian biblical scholars. Origen didn't know about it, the great biblical scholar Augustine. No one knew about this verse. And you expect me to believe that it was there all along and no one knew anything about it? Okay, fantastic.
8 manuscripts.
Okay. What, dated from when? Dated when?
I don't know.
You don't know. There are no early manuscripts that have it. I do know. You don't know, I do know. Why? Because I can tell you the manuscripts.
So maybe
the
they didn't
Codex
find it.
Sinaiticus is not in there. The Codex Vaticanus is not in
Just because
there.
they didn't find it doesn't mean it doesn't